the Sun article on this. Okay, we're going to take a look at it here together. Just give me a second to line it up. Stone Cold Case. Secret stash of 800 stone figures covered in mystery language could be clue to a lost Caribbean civilization. Now, notice even here in the Sun, what does it say? It says it's a mystery language. Hebrew Israelites of the One West variety would have you believe that it's Hebrew. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Number one, were faithful Hebrews supposed to be making figurines in relationship to religious worship in the first place? And I think you know the answer. It's no, because it kind of looks like an idol once you get into that, right? That's the first thing to consider. Now, I know what they'll say, but we'll get into that. Secondly, if there's writing on here, all right, and you're going to tell me what it is, and you're going to say it's Hebrew, guess what has to be able to be done? The Hebrew has to be translated. And I'm going to tell you something. There's 800 stones in this collection we're going to look at. 800. That's plenty to translate. Why hasn't anyone translated them? Why hasn't anyone translated them?
It's a very obvious pattern.
The obvious pattern was that discoveries of antiquities conflicted with the thinking of European immigrants, that Native Americans and their ancient ancestors were mere savages.
The doctrine of manifest destiny allowed the United States government to classify the Native Americans as savages by their terminology. And by calling them savages, that would allow them to push them aside and basically claim their lands as America expanded in a westward direction.
19th century Americans would have found it more than inconvenient. Politically, it would have been impossible for them to have taken lands away from Indians, from any indigenous peoples, if they viewed them as having rights even close to what they had as American citizens.
Protestant priests, Catholic fathers, Jewish rabbis were seeing these possible links between the Native Americans and ancient Israel. These links included written records that had possible tie-ins to the ancient world.
There were certainly religious beliefs, thinking that the Native Americans may have been descendants of some Hebraic, Jewish, Israelite travelers to the Americas at different times. So to see an artifact like that, or the context in which they would place an artifact like that, would be, especially something found in association with the mounds, would be, oh, that shows to us the presence of these people at that time here in the Americas.
The idea that ancient inhabitants knew of and used Middle Eastern Hebrew symbols undermined the notion that Native Americans were isolated savages.
I believe that the Native Americans had no written record prior to Christopher Columbus. This would make it prehistory, but nothing could be further from the truth. In fact,
Powell's vision of 19th century evolution was that Native Americans had evolved in North America for millions of years to a state less advanced than that of European immigrants. Robbing Native Americans of their history before Columbus may have served two purposes. First, justifying manifest destiny and the displacement of Native Americans. And second, dismissing of popular religious ideas that ancient Native Americans may have had Middle Eastern origins, and thus rights equal to those of European immigrants. Powell wrote, "Whether we desire it or not, the ancient inhabitants of this country must be lost, and we may comfort ourselves in the reflection that they are not destroyed, but are gradually absorbed and become part of a more civilized community."
And it's pages 73 through 86 of the 1879 and 1880 book that was published in the Smithsonian. And the quote is as follows: "Hence, it will be seen that it is illegitimate to use any pictographic matter of a date anterior to the discovery of the continent by Columbus for historic purposes."
As it turns, and last year, finally, the mystery of haplogroup X was revealed in a very important study by a team under Dr. Schluss, and he determined without any doubt that the origin of haplogroup X was the hills of Galilee.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Recha Ha Kodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to you other elders scattered abroad, you brethren, you fellow believers of this faith, even you few sisters and you supporters of the truth. Shalom as well. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the elect. I want to touch on this video that is actually a response of the elder Apostle Tahar, Apostle Tahar's channel, Elders in Transit 3. The video is titled, They Came to the Americas, okay, long before Columbus. Now, this is actually a response that he did off of Vocab Malone, right, the street apologist, Hebrew in Puerto Rico. So, this is just going to be a recurring event, you know, a recurring situation with Vocab Malone, who's coming against the one Westers, as he say, and making doctrines up as he go along. But I do want to touch on the fact that he pulled this video up, or maybe somebody did a video on it, about the stones, and then why hasn't it been broke down, and why hasn't it been reviewed, various other things. So I want to touch on that first, because at the end of the day, we already believe, and there's nothing that you can do to change that. But I also say the Hebrews, if you understand the Hebrews in the past, even over in Africa, how we've adopted many religions, different practices, different writings, just like what you would call Hispanics or Mexicans. They all have a different kind of lingua of language, and even in some cases how they write it. But we also see this with many cultures, right? The people in the Holy Land today, okay, they have different variations of their language and writings, right? This is why we see Deuteronomy 28:68. They wrote it in a Hebrew, you know, which is, they have a form of Yiddish, which is Poland, France, I can't remember, Russian, and various other dialects with their language. Okay, so you can see the confusion. And even amongst themselves, a lot of people don't know that they have to communicate amongst themselves over there, because there's different variations of language and writings. So we can't go on this. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. Okay, you had our people who mixed and adopted other practices, mixed with other nations, and that's why we would carry on even some of the features of other nations and various other things. What do you think going to happen? The children of Israel was always known to put other gods beside them. That's why he said, thou shalt not have any other God beside me, right? So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that and to show you that this man has been a demon on the planet, you know. This man is in power. And when you really look at the history, all the evidence, I mean, this is only a portion of what I saw. All over YouTube, all over the internet, all over Google. There's no shadow of a doubt that the Native Americans were Hebrews. Okay? And this guy, J.W. Powell, which I went into him before, kind of talking about him before in the Library of Congress, because they knew that these were the Hebrew Israelites. I did a video on that a while back too. I forgot what page it was. I think I got it up somewhere on my computer, where the Library of Congress knew this, and this is before Frank Cherry and the other guy that Vocab says has brought us to the fact that we're Israelites. This was long before the 1800s, so to speak. See, the 1800s was in a lot of things branched off. The Roman Catholic churches, the evangelicals, and set up the Jesuits, and all these, the priests, and going into conquering and various other things, where they start really changing and coming up with all kinds of forms of new doctrines. Even his boy Calvin, right? A lot of history on him as well. How he had people burnt at the stake right, for not following him. But for whatever reason, they called the native savages. Now, that's very important to understand, because through all of that, why would they hide all of that? Why would this man try to cover all this up and try to take their history from them if there wasn't a threat? So clearly we see that there was a threat. Let's go to Psalms 83, one we like to get. It's still a good scripture. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulting against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Right? So they know. And this is what this guy, J.W. Powell, has done. Right? And various others with him. I'm not going to go through the list, but there's quite a few of them who, in their mindset, they said, we gotta cut them off. And this is because the Lord set this up. Right? The Lord set this up. He gave them the ability to break us and cut us off. Okay? So when you go to Deuteronomy 28:64, it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, with an S, okay, which neither thy fathers have known, wood and stone. Now, why is it saying this? Thou shalt serve other gods that neither thy fathers have known. Because when you go into the ancient times, you had Israelites who were still referencing the Lord Yahweh, but they always merged the other gods with Yahweh. Right? So we still knew, but the problem came in when we started adopting practices into what we worshiped, right? What we believed. That's why the Most High said, I am the Lord your God, thou shalt have no other God beside me. And we can see this in the history of the kings, how the other nations needed a king and a leader, and he said, I am your king. And it's just that we always wanted to be like the other nations. And when you fast forward to 2020s, right, you see our people saying, well, we say you Hebrew Israelites, you're separate from other nations, this is who you are, you're special. You'll still see our people try to merge themselves with other gods, right? Wood and stone. Now, this brings me to the artifacts that was brought up, right? In case vocab doesn't understand. As I said earlier, it says wood and stone. As I said earlier, you had our people who will adopt different languages and practices into Hebrew. You can look this up, right? And merge it. When you look at the languages today, it's all watered down. Okay? You have various forms of Hebrew today, all watered down. So that's nothing new. 868, it says stone, wood and stone. It says, there's so many definitions on this. Stones containing metal, it says sacred object or memorial. Samuel set up to mark where Yahweh helped Israel to defeat the Philistines. So we see right there, right, that we would have been practicing doing certain things, when we was, as Israelites, we would do certain things with stones or whatever else. So I don't know why this man, he brought this video. Maybe it was just something he needed to bring up, right? So what language was that? If he claims, you can't fully conclude that it wasn't Hebrew if nobody can translate it. And forget the damn Hebrew scholars, some of them know, but forget them, right? They have gotten the records and they have made different forms of Hebrew. They have gotten really away from the original form of Hebrew. Or maybe they don't want to translate it. There's so many things that we could say. Well, if it's not that, then what is it? Can they translate it as John Champollion or Jean Champollion with the Egyptian hieroglyphics? And you got to remember, we went into different forms of captivities. Did we not pick up certain things along the way? You had to know when we came out of Egypt, the certain things that we were carving and what we were into. I mean, this is not making any sense. I mean, if he came up to us with this, it would be easy work, man. But I'm responding to it because I'm going to the fact that the Library of Congress already said that they had all the artifacts, they had everything set up, that these had to be the Hebrews. They had to be the Hebrew Israelites. They had to be the lost tribes. David said it way before Frank S. Cherry or Frank Cherry, and I can't remember the other weird name or the other guy name. There's another little article. It goes off, but I just want to get to the point. The 10 lost tribes were the 10 tribes of the 12 tribes of Israel that were said to have been exiled from the kingdom of Israel, right? After the conquest of the Assyrian Empire. These are the tribes: Reuben, Simeon, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Manasseh, and Ephraim, all but Judah and Benjamin, as well as the members of Levi. If you keep reading, it does go on point, and then it seems like it goes off. It says the 10 tribes appeared to be misnomer, meaning of all of the Israelites that were living outside the kingdom of Judah. The Jewish historian Josephus, 37 to 100 CE, wrote that there were but 2 tribes in Asia and Europe subject to the Romans, while the 10 tribes are beyond the Euphrates till now and are immersed multitude not to be estimated by numbers. We see this in Hosea, the first chapter. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel cannot be measured as the sand of the sea, right? So it's too much history, and the vocab cannot cover this back up. Luke 12:2, for there is nothing covered that shall not be made manifest or revealed, neither that shall be not known. So it's all coming out. My whole point, again, I wanted to make is that at the end of the day, why did this guy J.W. Powell try to cover all of this up? If there was no threat there, if there was no history there. And you could say, well, he just wanted to cover up these people's history and heritage because they needed to be civilized. But they saw, and the other men with him, if you read men before him, they said that these were the Hebrews. But this wouldn't have worked coming from their headship to say that. So this guy was set up to say, no, just sweep it under the rug. These guys have no history. This explains why they don't teach us anything about ourselves before the slave trade. You were just nobodies. You were just savages, right? The reason why but meanwhile the white man, he can, even though he wasn't so-called always a Christian, somehow they can keep tracing back and show them history and everything that they've done, everything great they've done in the world. Everything, all the inventions and all the so-called anyway, and all the great things they've done in the world. So this tells you there's an issue, because if they really have to go back and show what we've done, then they understand we will link it with our heritage, right? That's why they don't want to give us the writings. That's why they want to say we were nothing but Egyptians and Canaanites. That's why they do that. Anyway, Hebrews 6:4. For it is impossible for those who were once enlightened and have tasted of the heavenly gift, right, and were made partakers of the Holy Ghost, and they have tasted the good word of Yahweh and the powers of the world to come. So once you get this understanding and get it in you, there's some that won't be able to retain it. And this is what Vocab Malone is set up for the ones that aren't meant to retain it. But to the elect, this is a breeze. It's a breeze. If they shall fall away, to renew them again unto repentance, seeing they crucify to themselves the Son of God afresh, and put him to an open shame. At the end of the day, once you turn your back on a plow, right, you're not fit for the kingdom of heaven. Verse 10, for God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have shewed towards his name, in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. And we desire that every one of you do shew the same diligence, right, to the full assurance of the hope until the end. Let me look up that real quick. Until the hope of the end, sure due diligence. So, the elect is not going to falter. They understand, right? The elect will understand, and they will continue down that path. Lord's will, I'm the elect, but, at the end of the day, whoever the elect is, they're going to continue. It says, diligence, G4710, it says haste, earnest diligence, accomplishing. This is why Yahushua said, be ye perfect as your Father is in heaven. That is actually going into completion. This all goes hand in hand with diligence. To give diligence, interest oneself earnestly, accomplishing, striving, after anything, to be diligent, to continue. So when we see these videos and vocab come up here and talking about the stones, and it doesn't show any Hebrew, and they get Dr. James White or that man, I forgot that old white man, I forgot his name, when they put him up there, that Dr. Brown, that guy, when they put him up there and he says all these things, and then here you go, right? There was many different people in those lands. So, hey, it's whatever it is, man. We're just saying that those people in the majority that settled in that land were Hebrew Israelites, and there's too much proof to prove that, and you can no longer cover it up. Anyway, that's all I have on that. Shalom.